Good morning, young people. Mrs. Rains. I am talking to you today about Cornell note-taking. It's a style of note-taking that requires some thought processing to go on. So here we go. So why should you take notes? Well, you want to minimize your rate of forgetting. According to Dr. Walter Pock at Cornell University Reading Center, those who don't take notes forget 60% of what they're supposed to have learned in 14 days. Those that take some notes remember 60% of what they are supposed to have taken notes on. And those that take organized notes and do something with them remember 90 to 100% indefinitely. That means for all times. So obviously, the more you use and take good notes, the better off you are at remembering what you're doing. So, sorry, that wasn't supposed to show up yet. Dr. Pock created the Cornell note-taking system, which is used in Stanford, UCLA School of Engineering, and most law schools, and of course at Cornell. So yeah, it's something that they use in universities. The Cornell system requires students to review notes and think critically after learning has taken place. So what you see here is you see that you're going to put a date and topic on the top, you're going to put questions, subtitles, headings, etc. on the left, you're going to put web pages, drawings, important notes on the right, and then you're going to have a summary. So let's look at that a little bit more. So here we put the line that's about 2.5 inches from the side of the paper. That creates our left-hand side. Don't use the rule part here. This portion is not big enough for you to use for that. Go ahead and draw a line about 2.5 inches from the edge of the paper, or the perforation would probably be really good, so that you have plenty of room to write your questions or your headings or the things that you need to write right here. Okay, after you do that, you put your name, first and last name, class, period, and date up in the top right-hand corner. Then we put the topic over here on the left-hand side, Sorry, I had to stop for a minute. So we were at the topic on the left-hand side over here. After you put the topic, you're going to start taking your class notes. So, and over here, you're going to put questions, subtitles, headings. Questions are really important. Asking questions about what you're writing is really important to you because then it becomes a study tool. And finally, at the bottom of the page or on the next page, whatever the last page of that day's notes, it may take more than one page. You may have more than one page to do. You're going to write 3 to 4 sentences of summary across the bottom of the last page of the day's notes. So across the entire bottom, you're going to use that. 3 to 4 sentences, that's a small paragraph. So when should you take notes? Notes are to record a record of your learning. So you take them when you listen to a lecture, you read a text, you watch a film, you work in a group on an activity. You need to recall information about what happened to you in a class meeting or activity, which means always. You're going to always take notes. For everything that you do in an academic setting, you should be taking notes, because everything that you do in an academic setting is a learning process. Everything. In our class, we take notes on videos. We have notes that you could take in class while we're doing things. You could write things to the side. We will be watching videos that are actually educational and that you're supposed to learn something from. When you're working in a group activity and you're asking questions of each other, it's really important that you keep a monitor of all of that. And then, of course, if you're in a class meeting or an activity that you need to take notes so you know what's happening in the next meeting or what you need to bring, that's really important. So note-taking processes are really important overall in the process of academic learning. So what do you notice that's different about Cornell notes? Well, they're separated. You have a line that separates your questions over here from what your answers are to your questions. So they're divided into 2 parts, questions and notes. There's a reflection at the end, so you have to process again at the end and reflect about what you just learned about or what you just saw. There's room for a topic, so you have room to put your topic up here in the top left-hand corner. They're labeled with your name and class and period and other information. Make sure you put a date. Dates are important because sometimes in college, you need to know the date that you're supposed to be taking these notes so that you can match up with what you were supposed to know. Okay, so all of those things are what's different about Cornell note-taking than other kinds of notes. What types of questions should I place on the left side? Well, you should place questions which are answered in the notes on the right. So anything that's answered in the note questions, you can put a question over there. Remember, it becomes a study tool after that. You can cover up the right side, ask the questions, and you have the answers right there. Questions you still need to answer or ask a friend or teacher after class. So it's really important. That's a really important thing. Something that you don't understand. Ask a question. Leave room for the answer to be answered right there in your notes. So you've gone through some stuff, you don't understand something, ask that question. Underline it, highlight it, do something so you know you need to ask that question of me in class. Questions the teacher might ask on a test. So if there's something that I'm referring to a lot in class, I'm saying a lot in class, it was probably a question that is going to be on the test. Today in class, I'm referring to a question on the worksheet that you turned in that a lot of you didn't understand. And I know that there is a question on your next test that is very similar to that question. So I'm trying to set you up for success. And when you hear a teacher doing that, that is something that you need to clue in on because they do it in college and universities too. Higher level thinking questions. So more than wrote, what is it? What is it? Information you can find in a textbook. What is it? I need more than that. Why is that it? Explaining your answer. Explaining an explanation, a question that explains why something is something. Those are always important things to put, and it always takes you to the next level, and it should take you to the next level. What else could I place on the left side? Well, the left-hand side is for questions, but you could also put things like key terms, vocabulary, words, or dates. Don't just do key terms, vocabulary, words, or dates. And dates are usually more like if you're in a social studies class. That might be a really important thing to put. But I don't want all of your left-hand side to be vocab because that's the easiest thing to write down. You need to ask yourself some questions too. So be careful about that because some of you will like to do that because it's easy. Okay? Diagrams or figures. Breaking up words in notes is really important for our brains. It's really important to have a diagram or a drawing or a figure that explains what we just did. And that's really important, and as you'll see in the example that I give you tomorrow. Reference pages in the textbook. So you could refer to a page in the textbook that you have. Like maybe it's a figure that's a little bit too complicated to draw and you can't get it in, but you can write, refer to page such and such for something. And so you know where to go. It becomes a study tool then because now I have a reference to where I need to go to look. Steps in a solution process. So do you have certain steps that you have to go through in your solution process? Notes to myself about actions I need to take. Do I need to ask a question? Ask a question here. Don't understand. Do I need to review? Do I need to talk to somebody about this? What do I need to do? What are some good tips for taking notes on the right? Okay, really simply. Write only what's most important. Don't try to write all of the words. Don't try to write every word that I say. Don't try to write every word that is on the slide. Write the most important words. Listen for repetition. Change in pace or volume, numbering, explicit clues. These are all important things. So when I start repeating things, they're important. When I get higher in volume or the inflection of my voice changes from a lower register to a higher register, that means that what I'm trying to get across is really important. And those are clues that are really important to see. Watch for gestures or clues for organization. So I might say, and a few slides ago, I started circling things with the mouse, and you could see me doing that. Okay, look for material being written down by the instructor or shared in a visual manner. So if the instructor is writing, you probably need to be writing. What are some good tips for taking notes on the right? Some more good tips, okay? Write in your own words. Make sure you paraphrase, because if you just write in other people's words, the likelihood is that you're not going to understand what they're saying. And you need to make sure they're words that you understand and that you know. Okay, write using abbreviations. Check dictionaries for these or create your own. I did this in college biology. A friend of mine and I developed an abbreviated style of writing notes so that we could help each other with notes. And it really worked because it saved time in trying to write things, and we could understand things without having written all of the words. Draw figures or diagrams. Make sure that you're breaking up the words a little bit so that it's not so word heavy. Leave spaces to add things. If you don't understand something, or if you're taking notes the next day or going over something the next day, leave some space to add to stuff. And that's a really good tool when you're in college after you've read the textbook and you're going to the lecture about that text, those text pages. If you have space, you can add to your notes in the places that you need to. Okay, leave space where you think you might need to fill info in later. That's what we were just talking about. Use bullets, arrows, and indenting list keys and key ideas. So instead of writing down complete sentences, do bullets, number 1, number 2, number 3, or bullet points, much like I'm using here in the PowerPoint. Write legibly. It's really important that you write so you can read it. If you can't read it, then it doesn't help you. If others can't read it, it can't help them. So legibility is really important. Okay, some other good tips. Actively listen. Make sure you're actively listening. How are you going to take notes? Use SLANT. SLANT stands for sit up, lean forward, ask good questions, nod yes and no so that people know if you're understanding or not, and make sure you're talking with the teacher when necessary. SLANT is just an acronym that's used to describe good techniques for showing people that you're listening and learning. And when you do this in colleges and universities, you sit in the front, you sit forward, you lean forward, you ask questions, you do everything that you need to do. The professor's going to remember you more, and that's always a good thing unless you're a chucklehead. Okay? Maintain eye contact with the speaker because that's important too, that you're understanding and you're seeing the visual cues from the speaker. Nod your head at appropriate times. Don't nod your head all the time. Don't nod your head all the time. Only when it's appropriate, when you know that you need to be like, oh yeah, I understand that, or no, I don't get that. Nod your head so that we can see the visual cue. Frown when you don't understand, like, what? I don't get that, because that sends a visual cue to the speaker, to me, that something's wrong and I need to ask a question or I need to find out what it is. Ask relevant questions, and this is probably one of the most important things. Make sure you're asking questions if you don't understand. Sitting back, excuse me, and acting like you don't know doesn't help you. Okay, answer questions posed by the instructor. So if you're asked a question, answer a question. And answer to the best of your ability. Use your notes to answer the question. Go look for the answers. Do what you have to do to maintain the engagement that you need to while you're taking notes and in classes. Make a written record. That means take the notes. Actually write it down. Don't just rely on the visual video. Take the notes, write it down, keep the record. Okay, what are the steps? Really set up your page, draw your margins, and label everything clearly. Okay, take notes, use your best strategies. Actively listen and analyze and ask questions while you're taking notes and after you've taken the notes. And review, revise, and reflect. Look over the notes and highlight them, edit, add info if you need to, write questions and reflections after you've taken the notes. You can do it during, while, after, it doesn't really matter, but that's the important thing. The more you use the notes, the more you remember the notes. Okay, so why take notes? Good notes allow students to help each other solve problems, so you're helping yourself and others. Okay. Cornell note-taking stimulates critical thinking, so the more you're thinking, the more you're learning. Note-taking helps students remember what is said in class. And good set of notes can help students work on assignments and prepare for tests outside of the classroom. Why take notes more? Good notes allow students to help, oh, that's the same one, hang on. Okay, good notes help students organize and process data information. Help students recall by getting them to process their notes 3 times, and writing is a great tool for learning. So that's where we're going to end it today. Hopefully you've gotten some stuff so that tomorrow you can come to class and you can be prepared. Thank you.